In this project, we're going to talk about what happened in Chernobyl back in 1986. We're going to show how exponential functions can be applied in real life. What is an exponential function?
Exponential functions are functions with a value that is a constant raised to the power of the argument, especially the function where the constant is e.
What is a function and graph that models and represents it? What are their main characteristics?
The main characteristics of an exponential function are that it has a vertical or horizontal asymptote. It has a characteristic point plotted at O1, and it may be clearly increasing or decreasing. It also has a domain of infinite to infinite and a range from 0 to infinite.
What is exponential decay?
Exponential decay is when a quantity decreases at a rate proportional to its current value.
What are the implications of using nuclear energy? What are the implications of using nuclear energy?
Nuclear energy implicates a small amount of emissions that can cause many environmental problems such as global warming.
Do you consider nuclear energy clean energy?
Many consider nuclear energy to be clean, but that may not be completely the case. We believe that nuclear energy is not clean energy because it transmits emissions that hurt the atmosphere and the environment.
Nuclear energy plants.
Aware that there is a nuclear energy plant in Mexico. There are two, one located in Mexico City and one in Laguna Verde. We think it's not safe at all, but sometimes we are forced to have one to protect ourselves from foreign powers.
Do you agree with the fact that there is a nuclear plant in your country?
Even if it's not completely safe, we agree because it is necessary.
Chernobyl disaster.
What is Chernobyl and what happened?
Chernobyl is a city near Ukraine's border with Belarus. On April 26, 1986, the Chernobyl nuclear power plant exploded, creating a disaster in the whole city.
How could the nuclear disaster been prevented?
We think the Chernobyl nuclear disaster could have been prevented since the people who were working in this project were not completely qualified for their job. If they were more prepared, the disaster wouldn't not happened.
Was there any way to stop the radiation spread and its pollution?
No, although there was a way to prevent the disaster, there wasn't a way to stop the radiation from spreading. People were affected because of the radioactive crowd, consuming contaminated food and breathing contaminated air.
Do you think that the radioactive pollution generated by this disaster reached Mexico?
No, Mexico was very far apart from the attack, and we believe that there was a certain radius, an area that was affected.
What are the environmental consequences?
200,000 kilometers squared of Europe were contaminated. Belarus, Russia, and Ukraine were the three most affected countries. Radioactive materials were deposited on rivers, lakes, and some water reservoir close to the power plant and on some parts of Europe. Aquatic bodies are still being contaminated by runoff of long-lived cesium and strontium released from contaminated soils. The radioine rapidly was absorbed into milk, leading to thyroid doses to people consuming milk. A lot of people were affected, especially children in Belarus, Russia, and Ukraine.
What are other environmental consequences of other nuclear disasters and other use of nuclear weapons?
The consequences are very harmful for us and the Earth. It could cause many natural disasters that can be negative for us and our daily life.
What do you think and feel about these consequences? What would be the solution proposal for this situation?
We think that these consequences are very dangerous for us and we should try to avoid them and keep them isolated from humans and the environment. How did we feel working like this?
Comfortable working in teams since we already knew each other. We did like working like this because it was the first time we worked with someone that wasn't from the same classroom. Some questions were difficult, but the project in general wasn't really difficult.
Nuclear attacks.
Our two other events where the exponential growth is applied is the bombing at Hiroshima and Nagasaki and the nuclear disaster at the Fukushima, Japan. As you can see, they are both nuclear-associated disasters, so they are both represented with the same graph that the Chernobyl disaster is. Exponential growth of neutrons in fission. During a nuclear reaction, for every atom that gets split, it releases energy with 3 more neutrons. These neutrons get to accelerate and power another reaction, forming an exponential growth of mass destruction. We investigated and realized that this problem can be represented by the exponential function that will be y equals 3 to the power of x.
In this equation, y would represent the neutrons and x will represent the chain reactions.
The asymptote in this equation will be y equals 0. Domain, all real numbers, and range is over 0.